Hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy midweek with meaning. This is Angela Ward. I'm coming back at you again with another topic today. So if this is your first time watching, please leave me some comments. Say hi. Let me know where you're coming in from. And if this is your millionth time, it really is great for me to know that you're here. And feel free to pop questions into the comments as you're watching. If you're watching a replay, please put replay in the comments. And what else? Yeah, I'm Angela Ward. I'm a registered nurse and soul midwife. I help people journey within and return renewed through my business, Guardian at the Gateway. And I do this show every week for you because I love you. I skipped last week. I'm so sorry. It was like the first time in months that I hadn't done an episode. But I'm back with some good ideas for you and things I want to talk about. So this topic today is about desire and want. Why is this up for me? Because this is an area where I need to work. And I also feel like this comes up a lot with the people I work with and with my friends even, where we have this state of really wanting something and it's difficult. So who here has a want? Raise your hand. Give me a thumbs up or an emoji or whatever. And who here has a desire? Do you even know what the difference between those things are? So I think the easiest way for most people to access the understanding of this word, here, let me see if this light helps. Most people relate to the idea of desire and wanting related to sexuality, sensuality, and that it has something to do with libido and with being chased by a partner or not. So that's not what I'm talking about, although that is part of this conversation. I think that's the most accessible place for many of us to understand what the feeling of desire and or want is. So let's talk about it a bit in that lens for a moment. Have you ever been the one wanting or been the receiver of someone wanting? Now, what I mean by that is perhaps you've had an encounter with someone or you've wanted someone, but it gets into this kind of weird, grabby energy. It gets into this kind of like, you're like, oh, this person is just like, it kind of turns into a sense of neediness, right? So wanting has this feel of neediness connected to it sometimes. And I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. I guess we could also imagine a kid around the holidays thinking they want a certain thing and getting into some weird tantrum if it doesn't happen for them. But what about desire? Now, have you ever been in a place where your desire is really active? For me, the energetic imprint that's different, it doesn't have this clasping feel. Desire feels to me more open and more self-generative, meaning that it feels like it comes from within and is moving in the direction, I'd say easily about what I am desiring, in the direction of what I'm desiring. So let's talk a little bit about what it means. What does it even mean? What do these two words mean? And I think this is really important to understand. So why I'm talking about this is because a lot of people will write in their journal or they're trying to create their day or they're trying to manifest some things and they'll say, I want this, I want this, I want this. But want is not helpful. So, I love to go to my etymology online and look up the root of words. And want is an old word. It goes back to Old Norse in the 1200s, meaning to be lacking, to lack or want, to leave, abandon, and give out. Those are some of the roots of that word. To diminish, related to this sense of wane. That which is lacking but needed. So can you feel that energy in that? That's like, it's really kind of painful, right? So I'm pulling from a couple different books here, also from my lovely teachers. Adele Tevlin and Kiana Prema have worked with me a lot in this area, but I'm going to read a little bit from this book, which I'm reading a lot right now, A Happy Pocket Full of Money, and then also from this lovely book called Desire, The Tantric Path to Awakening by Daniel Odier. Both awesome books, highly recommended. But in this book, he says, want, again, to be without, lack, to be destitute or needy, a defect of character or a fault, to be absent, to be deficient or lacking, to fail, to not be sufficient, to fall or come short, and to lack. So wanting, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to put that on the screen so other people can see. Thanks for sharing, Julie. I hadn't seen want that way before. It definitely feels, it has kind of that kind of suck feel to it. So now let's talk about what desire means. I mean, just saying the word, it feels a little different, right? It's kind of titillating a little bit. This word, oh gosh, this is a pretty old one. It goes back to, again, about the 1200s. It's French, Old French. And it says to wish or long for, express a wish to obtain. It comes from an original sense in the Latin, which means await what the stars will bring. And also related to the phrase of desideri, which is desire kind of split, which means from the stars, from the heavenly body. Stars are constellation. So how does that feel compared to want? From the stars, if you're desiring something, it's coming from the stars. Here's another definition: to express a wish for, a request, the natural longing that is excited by the enjoyment or the thought of any good and impels action or effort, its continuance or possession, right? And impels to action or effort, its continuance or possession, an eager wish to obtain or enjoy. That feels so different to think, what is desire? So let me pop over to this lovely, lovely book, a whole book about desire. A lot of people consider that Tantra is just about fancy sex positions, and it's not at all. It's about being in this desirous connection with just life and what the universe unfolds in front of us. Yeah, I'm going to share that one too. Thanks, Julie. Desire sounds sexy and alluring. Smiles. Oh, yeah, it sounds way better. It doesn't have that like feeling that want does. Okay, so this is why desire matters. Okay, this is so important. Desire is one of our life forces. It's one of our life forces. To deny desire or to want to cut it off is to deprive ourselves of an incomparable dynamic. It is to head towards becoming dried up and drained of life. There's more that he says. Let me continue a little bit. So one of the concepts that I think is really important to remember, and we've talked about this on this show, that life is happening for you, not to you. And it's really hard to remember that. We're not in that practice at all. We're in a practice of, a lot of us are in a practice of victimhood, or, things are a little bit chaotic in the world around us, but how we relate to it does affect our ability to get connected to that from the stars, or that core sense of self. So he continues to say, If everything proceeds from consciousness, then no action is more worthy than another. The desire for God is a desire. The desire to renounce desire is itself a desire. It is therefore impossible to follow a spiritual or mystical path while eradicating desire. I don't know how many of you were raised in a religious orientation that really shut off your connection to this kind of sensual expressed life. And really, disconnecting from desire. I think what happens is, though, that we tend to collapse desire into want. So let's take it off the sexual realm for a minute. So it doesn't have to be about another person, but even if it's like you desire an object of some kind, a fancy car. What happens when we want something? Because there is a lack and this tightness, we will often take action towards making it happen. Maybe the car's not a great analogy. It is a good one, but he talks about in this book, let's say one of the wants you have is you're hungry, you have a feeling, and you want to eat. So in order to satisfy that wanting, you move into action. And sometimes that wanting, because it has that kind of graspy state, it already sets up the pathway of action. It sets up, like, rather than this internal spark kind of allowing it to arise within us, we move to action. Food's an easy one to think about because you're like, I have feeling, now I want a bag of M&Ms and I'm going to eat them and change the state. It's about coming from that lack and satisfying lack, right? But if we're talking about desire doesn't have to collapse on an object. Let me say that again. Desire doesn't really, at its source, collapse on an object. We often believe that it does. But what you're actually experiencing is this kind of spark from your core self, from God, from source, whatever you're calling it, that is asking you to get more aligned with your core self. And from a place of desire, there is, I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this. I certainly have, where as I desire something and it becomes more in my conscious awareness, I start seeing it more around me. So let's say I desire more connection, like genuinely. This isn't I like want to hang out with people and be close to them. Like, it doesn't come from that. It's like I desire a really deep, open-hearted, grounded connection that feels reciprocal and nourishing. And rather than me collapsing it onto wanting to hang out with someone that I think can do that for me, what happens is I allow myself to come into that resonance of being that, being like prepared to connect and to trust that my desire will be met because it's inspired from the stars. It is inspired by God. So the universe is conspiring, the conspiracy of angels, to come and greet me there. And then what happens? Then the most interesting people arise in my life. The people cross my path with which to have these deep conversations and connections. I hope that makes some sense. Yeah. So I'm really curious if you might just for a moment with me while you're watching this, tap into your body. So if you're in a position where you can pause for a moment, like if you're not driving or something like that, pause for a moment and just take on the feeling of want. Maybe you feel like you're a young child wanting a particular toy, or maybe you're feeling like however that however that want is, I want you to embody that for a second and just see what it feels like to have that. And if you have an insight, please share it in the comments of what it feels like in your body. And then I would like you to switch it and to put on that feeling of desire. And what this says is, what if desire were simply the incandescence that gives us the feeling of being alive, of intensity? What if desire were the tremoring vibration that carries us? And I wonder if anyone experiences that. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's a really important point, Julie. Julie shared this feeling of want, that you need discipline somehow. So that's fascinating. That to me sounds like a sense of maybe it's connected a little bit to shame, like want is related a bit to shame, or that you're doing something wrong for wanting something. I wonder if that feels like it. But what if we shifted into desire and see how that feels? For me, desire feels more true, if that makes sense. Like I'm more grounded within myself when it's coming from a place of desire. So I'd love for you to try this on this week, to experiment with what it feels like to allow yourself to desire. And I'd really like to encourage you to recognize that it's not about the attainment of a thing. Generally, and I'm not the master of this topic by any means. Believe me, if you want to go deep, read this book. And even that, I'm sure, is just scratching the surface of this understanding. Desire feels light from a higher place, more of a place of trust. Thanks. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I feel way more trust in that desire place. Like it's more, it's more true. Yeah, there's not shame connected there. There's no shame or criticism. It seems more like vibrationally aligned. So, the question is, what do you really desire? And it's okay to desire a thing, but recognize that what is it that's really at your core calling that desire in? What is it? And I think it's really, for many of us, to feel more connected to being alive. Yeah. So what happens when we slow down enough to feel that? Instead of immediately collapsing into the want and the fulfilling of the want, what happens if you can allow yourself to sit with that? Maybe you have to access desire through want. Maybe you have a want arise. I want breakfast, or I want to pick up my phone. Like, could you go beneath the layer and maybe not take action for a moment, but to sit with that want and see if it transitions into a desire? Is your wanting simply a desire? Is your wanting simply wanting to change the state, the energy that you're feeling in your body? Maybe you're feeling uncomfortable, or maybe you're bored, or maybe you're whatever. Or is it a desire to feel more alive somehow? Is it a desire to feel more connected to how reality feels, the vibration of being alive and being connected to our greater selves? So what else do I want to say about that one? As you can see, this is a very, very big topic. And I would like to say so much more about it, but I think I'll probably leave it there for now. But because it's been a while, I would like to draw us a card. So, sometimes if you watch my show, occasionally I'll draw a card from a different oracle to see if it has any insight to offer based on the topic we're discussing. So today I'm using, my Sacred Earth Oracle. Thank you again, Ellie, for this sweet gift. I really love this deck and I've been getting to know it more and more. So let me shuffle this, and I'm going to this is just for fun, right? This is for fun. Let's see what else. I want to feel that sensation of being alive and see what else the universe wants to say about desire to help us on our path today. So give me 1 second. I'll draw it here in a second. I feel like I'm so close to you all today. I just thought it might be nice to be a little closer. You could see all my schmutzes and all my crazy hair. Do you like my Halloween hair? It's purple and orange. It's this little fall stuff going on. Yeah. Desire. What do the cards say about desire? Oh, here it is. Oh, this is the one that jumped out. I don't know if you heard me drop the deck all over the table, but this is the one that wanted to be out here. So let me show it to you. It looks like it says dependability. And it looks like there are some loving people in the center. Okay, let me examine this a little bit more and show it to you. So it looks like there's 2 people. Looks like a man because he's got a beard, but women can grow beards too, so that's fine. Here's a lotus. I love the lotus. Looks like all the colors of the chakras moving up. They almost look like they have wings and peacock feathers. Oh, gorgeous card. Gorgeous, gorgeous card. So I'm going to read to you what dependability means, and I'm going to inspire you to think about desire versus want and how this connects. So first I'm going to start with the insight. Where can I hold this for you? Rocks do not levitate, and planets don't swing out of orbit. Nature is dependable. In space and on Earth, atoms follow the same rules. Light travels at the same speed everywhere, be it from a distant star or the flame of a birthday candle. Water boils at 100 degrees. You can depend on gravity, on the rotation of the Earth, and that your forgotten coffee will cool to room temperature. Nature has laws it follows without exception. This is not one set of laws for the mountain. There's not one set of laws for the mountaintops and another for the valleys. Stars abide by the same laws as grains of sand. It is nature's loyalty to these laws that gives Earth the order it needs to support life. Outside of those laws is chaos and miracles. Before you accept a truth as absolute, put it to the test. Is it as true for the weak as it is for the strong? Is it as right for the rich as it is for the poor? The laws of the universe have no bias. We can depend on them regardless of age, wealth, culture, or status. I just want to give a quick commentary about that. I freaking love this card when we talk about desire and want, because when I read this about the dependability of the laws of nature, that tells me that want isn't needed, that the laws will happen, and desire is part of that being aliveness that follows these laws. Okay, let's see what else it says. So I feel like I need here, let me put the cards under my arm so I don't have to be so tired holding it up for you to see. Okay, the earthly meaning of this card is something that sounds too good to be true probably is. Choose dependability over grandiose promises. Stay focused and stick to your goals. Stating something loudly and repeatedly doesn't make it true. Do not be distracted by secondhand or ill-informed opinions. The truth always has a way of revealing itself. You don't need to get involved. Turn to or be someone you can trust. I don't know who needed to hear that card today, but yeah. Right? Okay, now listen to the spiritual meaning. Earthly meaning is just like get grounded and connected to your own star, soul, source, God, self. Spiritual meaning. Listen and respect all points of view, but in the end, you must be true to yourself. Put your faith in the great compassion of your heart and find comfort knowing that love is the greatest law of all. In the arms of Mother Earth, you can find acceptance, clarity, beauty, all you can depend on. The law of love is absolute. I love it. I love it. And I agree with that because that's my personal life mission, is to get more connected to love, to understand what it means and to show it and share it and to see it in all its forms. And love, if all is full of love, how can we not have desire? How do we even have wants, right? Maybe some of you watching this will be like, well, what about injustice and what about cruelty and what about that? Well, I think there's room for us to have that conversation for sure. But I'm asking you to think about you right now. And when we get in alignment with our desire, our deep, true desires, it nourishes us. It fills us. It helps us be resourced. It helps us have an abundance from with which to serve others and to help in situations of injustice, of crisis and things like that. Coming from that clasping place of lack, of want, does not give us the strength to share it and to move into greater connection. So that's what I wanted to share with you all today, my loves. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back next week with another episode of Midweek with Meaning. I think that might be on forgiveness, but we'll see. Unless I hear from you about a different topic and something you want to talk about. But yeah. And again, just so you can see, here's one book. Desire, Daniel Odier, The Tantric Path of Awakening. And then A Happy Pocket Full of Money, Infinite Wealth and Abundance in the Here and Now by David Cameron Gurkandi. This book's blowing my mind. So anyway, have a beautiful day, my loves, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Go check in with your desire.